Good evening. We're going to talk about what most of us don't want to talk about with our clients. We're really going to talk about STDs, waxing, client awareness. Hey, Tanya. So I am discussing right now with an esthetician, and I'm going to tell the story about what's going on with her so that way we can kind of open up the dialogue. I thought that her question to me was very interesting in regards to clients and not only disclosing an STD status, but understanding that they actually have one. And then what do we do when we see one and the client is not aware that they have one? Okay. Oh, good, Donna. So right now I'm chatting with an esthetician. She has a client first time, that she believes has HPV, in the anal area. And she is having conversations with the client. The client's swearing she's gotten tested for it and wanted her to extract them because she thought they were ingrowns. And that's the number one thing. Not only do I hear that, but that's the number one thing that most people think in that area. And we're going to talk about other STDs in other areas outside of the vaginal anal area too. But most people think that it's an ingrown, not realizing that it can be a possible STD. But she wanted this esthetician to extract her anal warts because she thought they were ingrowns, and was upset because the esthetician wouldn't extract them because they're not ingrowns. And then later on in the conversation, the words of, well, my boyfriend is extracting them every day. And then it came to, well, I'm not really sure that you're actually extracting anything. You're just poking at them. So, you know, in talking to her, you know, the conversation, you know, from me to her is more of this, a conversation you're going to have if she's your client. And I think this is one thing and one topic that we don't discuss, nor are we trained to handle, nor do we know 100% until a client says whether or not they've been tested. And the thing about being tested, as we all know, anything that has to do with HPV or herpes has to actually be tested and cultivated. So they have to take skin from that area. They have to almost do like a little biopsy to make sure that that's it. It's not just blood. And then you have to ask for it when you're getting tested, even if you are getting a blood test. And most people don't test for STDs, HPV, you know, herpes, syphilis, gonorrhea. All those things have to be asked. It's not in a routine test. Most people will do HIV. So this conversation led me to really get down to the obvious, is that we, as skincare therapists, should be open enough to have this type of candid conversation with the client. But it's hard to have that kind of conversation if your client is fully unaware of anything. And I find the more I wax, the more I find my clients do not know their bodies at all. You know, I have waxed, I would say at this point, thousands of people, and I have seen things that would blow your mind. But it's because we're not aware of what's happening with our own body. So it's hard to have a conversation with someone who is completely unaware that there are anything in that area. Then for you to take it and explain it to them, where it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation, it's going to be a it could be taken one of two ways. It could be either taken, thank you for letting me know, I'll get it checked out, or forget you, you don't know what you're talking about because I don't see it, I don't feel it, and I've already been tested. And those really are the two responses that you're going to get. In this particular situation, it's heartbreaking, and I kept telling her this, that it's so very sad that she's unaware that she is making her boyfriend or fiance or whoever he is pick at her warts every day, because she doesn't know that they're not ingrowns. So here we are, almost 3 weeks post wax service, and they're still there, which means that it is not an ingrown, which means it's not a rash. And that, you know, it brings up for me a bigger subject, because we do have clients that will have STDs and they may or may not disclose this. They also don't have to disclose this with us. Then you have those that I don't know what that word is, but hope you don't and will have the nerve to act offended. Oh, no. Yes, that no, absolutely. And that's the thing. They don't, by law, have to disclose to us as skincare therapists that they do have a sexually transmitted disease or even a disease at all. The law protects them very well, but it also puts us at a disadvantage because, number one, we can ask to an extent. So we can ask in a client consultation form, which is why I have that on my client consultation form. We can ask indirectly if there becomes an event or something that we physically see, but we can't have a direct conversation. And if we do, they legally don't have to say anything. They can ignore the question. They don't have to answer the question. They don't have to tell us anything, which is why, again, I say gloves are so important, because we in our mind think that we should really only wear gloves for bikini Brazilian waxing because we're dealing in vaginal, anal, or penis and anal areas, not realizing that the eyes, nose, and mouth are just as dirty and nasty as your anus and your vagina. To me, they're all one and the same. We have herpes of the eye, we have herpes of the nose, we have herpes of the mouth, which a lot of us are very aware of, but we'll still do a face wax with no gloves, not realizing that you don't have to physically see a herpes outbreak for that person to transfer herpes to you. So if you know that, then again, it's about protecting me as the therapist and not going in and assuming because of what I see is what's really real. So, you know, it's really about understanding, you know, body mechanics and health and anatomy, activities, exactly. But I think this is where it comes to as us as therapists. Do we understand the importance of that kind of conversation? We're already in that area already. We're already there. So are we comfortable enough with having that conversation? You know, I think that's part of the problem. And I think it's easy for us to get blamed. Understanding the what, where, when, and how. And be willing to ask those questions. So here's the thing about the stuff that we do. We have to be prepared and ready to really be honest with clients when we see situations like this. Whether it's a yeast infection, whether it's an STD, whether it's a situation that can be questionable, whether it's something that we're just not comfortable with, you definitely have to be open enough to have the conversation. And maybe that's something that we as therapists have to be better about, is being comfortable with having those kinds of conversations. We're great at talking about products. We're great at everything is great. It's when the stuff goes wrong.